Hello everyone, my name's FlareBlitzed here, and we've returned back to the letter. We're only about 40% of the way in through Rebecca's chapter, and this is our fourth episode doing this as well, but it all leads to the same destination. All is good. Anyways, should I even invite my friend Ashton to go to the ball in the welcoming party in the Ermengrade Mansion tomorrow afternoon? Do you have time? There's nothing wrong with trying, I suppose. Did that drop or increase? Maybe. There's nothing wrong with trying, I suppose. I'm not going to lose anything if he says no, which, frankly, has a very high chance of happening than the opposite. Though the thought still doesn't prevent heat from crawling up my face and send my heart racing. It's better to get this over with before my throat closes up and I lose my nerve. Tomorrow afternoon, do you have time? A small frown is already on his face. I already saw where this is going and what he's thinking from that alone. Yet for some malicious reason I continue, hanging on to that tiny glimmer of hope he'll say yes. If I present an argument good enough for him. That depends. Why? Well, you see, someone sent me an invite for a housewarming party, and I thought you might want to... Rebecca, I'd rather stand on the messy end of a gunshot, you know that. I know, it's just... You're one of the few people I could count on with things like this. That's cool, I appreciate the thought. But really, Zach is a better companion. Gatherings like that just aren't my cup of tea. It did cross my mind, you know. If he isn't busy with his freelance work, I'd probably ask him too. Actually, you two have been spared if Isabella was here, but why not just skip out on it? The world's not going to end if one guest doesn't show up. Trust me, I'd love to, but I promised Mum I'll be there. Still can't say no, huh? Like you're any better. Besides, the person who sent this is an old friend of Mum and Dad. It is important to them, why not? Though, who would have thought, huh? The famous Evans Hare used to be tutored by my parents. Apparently we also met before. Wait, who? Evans? Hannah Evans? Well, she's already married. She goes by Hannah Wright now. Remember the couple who bought the mansion Isabel's selling? The same people? As far as I know, unless I misread the address. Or there's another Hannah Wright in this city that we don't know about. Let me see that. Without waiting, he walks closer and takes the invitation off my hands, gently, but with the same force of urgency in his voice. I don't know what he finds in it, but his eyebrows draw together and his eyes scan through the little lines of text printed on the small piece of paper. His hold on the envelope tightens with each pass, and by the time he has finished reading, his mouth has firmed into a thin line. You never mentioned this. We met just once, or at least that's what Mum told me. Honestly, I can't recall anything from it otherwise. I would have told you about it. He hums something inaudible under his breath, all while thumbing the paper, staring at it as if doing so will pre-offer him answers to every unspoken question in his head. When he glances nothing from it, he merely folds the envelope back to its form. Alright, I'll go with you. What? I'll go with you. That shouldn't be a problem, right? Unless you've already made up your mind about asking Z-Man. No, I told you already, the guy's busy. Why would I bother him for this, when I can go alone? But what about your own work and... I can make time for this. 3 o'clock, yeah? I'll pick you up an hour or so before. My head reels, less from what this implies, more from how easy all this seems for him. How fast this turnaround is. He's already halfway down the stairs when any semblance of sense returns to me, and I can finally string 2 words of protest together. Yet, all of it dies on my tongue at the small smile he shoots me. He disappears from view seconds later, his footsteps gradually fading as he descends the stairway, until all I can hear are my own shallow breaths and heartbeat. Loud, pounding hard against my chest. It is only after I'm standing alone in my room minutes later that it sinks in. He has taken the invitation with him, but besides that, more than that, he has also accepted mine. Calling this happiness is a complete understatement. For now, living thoughts of a mansion and that woman lay silent at the back of my head. October the 28th, Friday. Okie dokie. Journal time. Yeah, I imagine it'll be the end of the journal since it was at night time. Luke and Kylie asked Rebecca out for dinner as she was about to leave, but the latter chose to meet with Ashton instead. At Summonwell, after a brief talk with Ashton about Isabel, Rebecca invited him to the housewarming party. Despite his quims, Ash agreed in the end. I think he said that himself, actually, rather than persuasion. The night wears on whatever further incident, despite the great number of thoughts swimming inside my head. Come morning, there's only a hush, a strange sort of stillness unlike the ones greeting me every morn. This one's uneasy, tight with anticipation, like a string stretched thin, merely waiting for the proper time to snap. Granted, it doesn't make my day any less pleasant, but the edge is there, and as expected, the second I step out of my flat it comes apart, broken by the voices of two squabbling adults, echoing from a floor below. The quiet was nice while it lasted. Shame. What the hell were you thinking? I wasn't... Ouch, could you let me go? Ah. Now, a few seconds later, they both ascend the stairs, with Ashton pulling Isabel by her wrist. She struggles, as she should, but his hold on her remains firm. Freeing herself means having to draw blood as she attempts to pry his hand off with her other one, or using unnecessary force to push herself away, neither of which is better than the other. One could potentially end in an accident, while the other means having to hurt him physically. She has the good sense to realize that, at least. However, it doesn't take the desperate edge in her voice when she answers Ashton's temper with her own. So on they go, none the wiser to my presence. Do you have any idea how much trouble you could get in? That's why I'm asking you for help. Is this what you've been doing these past 3 days? Because this doesn't make your case convincing, Isabel. Rose died, Ash. I know. Every single person in Luxbourne knows. It's on the damn news. But that doesn't mean people are missing. Some of those are my friends, and BRC's just covering it all up. And you can't just barge into my office and expect me to do anything about it right off the bat. This isn't a children's game, Isabel. We have procedures. We have to follow protocol. There's red tape all over this case for a reason. We sure as hell don't investigate things just because some stupid letter spooked us. Ash, you have to believe me this time. If we don't do anything right now, more people will. It's been a whole week. This stupid letter prank is getting old real fast. I'm sick of it. It was funny the first time, not so much now. You're the only one that can help me with this, Ash. Even Rebecca won't. Alright, you two are awfully loud. What's going on here? Both of their heads snap up, almost in unison. I displays frowners on each of their faces, but this is a necessary interruption. What could they do? People still in their units have already taken interest on the commotion, with some taking a peek behind their curtains, while others are bold enough to creak open their doors, if only slightly. If they don't keep it down, pretty soon our landlady will show up. Getting a repayment from her is the last thing I want to happen, first thing on a Friday morning, even if this is hardly my fault. Well, if you want to continue with this, you two better do it elsewhere. You're disturbing other people. Don't worry, we're done here. No, we aren't. Becky, I looked it up, I called them, I visited some of them, and... Which you shouldn't have done in the first place. Isabel, you're going to create more problems for us with what you're doing. A team has already been assigned to it. Leave it to us. Your precious team is looking at it the wrong way. Becca, it's not just Rose, there are others. That last bit strikes a chord, prods strongly at a memory. At that vicious smile already etched deeply inside my mind, the image appears clear enough that, At the mere mention of it, I stumble on my own question. What do you mean? The letter, Rebecca, it's not... It's nothing. If there's really something going on because of that damn letter, none of us would be standing here. We've read all of it, haven't we? But Rebecca's alive. Zach is alive. I'm alive. So for the last time, this isn't a curse. There's a murder on the loose, and your co-workers happen to be the victims. Give it a rest, Isabel. It's too early for this rubbish. Don't you think that's too much of a coincidence? Not so much. It's common for serial killers to follow a pattern. I'll tell you about it some other time. And anyway, coincidence or not, the point is civilians like you aren't supposed to get involved. You're putting yourself in danger. I wasn't chasing after. Will both of you slow down and stop arguing for a minute? What's this about your co-workers, Belly? Becca, please don't tell me now, please don't tell me now you believe this stuff. There's a you that's missing. Why are you? Sure, in a heartbeat I'll agree with Ashton. That's how it's always been. Besides having a very good point, really. They are the very same ones he'll make every time I ask too many questions. But the fact of the matter is, what he wants to hear from me right now is far from what I've been sensing these past 3 days. It doesn't matter what Isabel or I believe on our own. Something odd has been happening around me, and that letter she picked up is at the heart of this. Becky, you shouldn't be doing these things. Yes, that's a great way of looking at it. Okay, so let's look at their friendships right now. Relationships. So, a little bit below for Ashton and Isabel. Okay, so what if I pick the above choice? Yes, and so that one drops and Ashton's rises. Okay. Regardless of Isabel's intentions, curse or not, Ashton has every right to feel miffled. He's gone great lengths trying to keep his personal life away from his job. Even if he won't say it, he'll fight tooth and nail to keep us safe. And this time, Miss Cooper's death hit close. Too close to someone he cares about. That's not what I'm trying to get at, Ash. Then, help me talk some sense into her. I was about to get to that. Isabel, I know you're worried about those people, but you have to understand that what Ashton's doing isn't simple. He's right. You shouldn't even be involving yourself in this kind of stuff, much less doing things on your own. I went to him, didn't I? First thing in the morning, I asked for his help. After you went ahead and did some snooping. And now you're planning another one. Can't you see what's wrong with that? You won't bother me unless I give you proof. You said it yourself, evidence doesn't lie. Concrete proof, Isabel. Not something based on rumours or stupid urban legends. Trust me, Belly. Any day I'd gladly help you with anything. I know that. I was only hoping I could fix this before any of you. Before I... She breathes in, deep, steadying, and in a moment, something falls behind her eye as she looks away. Sorry, I got ahead of myself, didn't I? A quiet resolve, the same one I saw in her the night from 3 days ago, but this time it burns brighter. Even Ashton wavers at its sight. When she looks him straight in the eyes, gaze unflinching. Gradually, his grip on her wrist loosens. Belly, all I'm asking you for is to... Just this once, Ash. Her voice, though small and lacking any force, stops in, although with it every sound, every noise dies around us, a hush descending as if the world is waiting for her words. You don't have to come with me, but if I don't do anything, I am going to regret it. She lays her hand atop his, gentle, pleading, almost intimate, if one does not consider the circumstances we found ourselves in. Please. Ashton will never tell a soul, will never admit it to himself, but it is in that short second that his own resolve breaks. The moment the hard edge in his eyes softens and he relinquishes his hold on her, letting his hand fall limply to his side. Wordless, Isabel steps back and runs off, leaving only a muttered thanks and a small, lacklustre smile. Only after the last of her footsteps fade away does Ashton move, breaking the silence with one of his sharp exhales before reaching up to pinch the bridge of his nose in a gesture of frustration and surrender. I can't believe she just talked to me like that. Don't worry, I'll bring her back here. He's already poised to leave when my own instincts takes over. I reach for him, gripping his elbow with the same unyielding grip, the action prompted by voices whispering at the back of my mind. He's not going to believe me, but he deserves a word of caution. Who knows where all of this will take us, how all of this will end. He shouldn't be caught off guard. Beliefs not with understanding. Beliefs notwithstanding, sorry. Ash, I know you don't believe in those things she's saying, and you know me. I'm as less inclined to believe in those as you do. But please try to hear her out. Even if there's not a ghost or a curse, I think there's still something odd going on around here. What do you mean? Weird things, like the feeling of someone watching you, or shivers, the room suddenly getting cold. Like the weird things Scaredy Cat says, you mean? To some degree. Look, Ash, I'm not sure what it is. It's bad enough that Isabel goes off like this without telling anyone. I'm just worried something might happen to her if she keeps at it. Talk to her, okay? As if she trusts me enough for that. Doesn't the fact that she approached you first about this instead of me already says a lot? A different kind of trust, granted implicitly, don't know how to pronounce that, and never spoken. Sometimes too big, too fragile to last. He falls silent for a moment as he turns it over in his mind. In the end, all he manages to offer is a small nod before he departs, and to promise to, at least, listen to her, without the teasing or the jibs. A favour for me, and the least he could do for her. This is as much as I could do for him as well, until I understand what's happening myself. Tonight, hopefully, where this all started will provide the answers I'm looking for. Okay. Let's see. Isabel and Ashton arrived at Samuel, having an argument about the missing BRC employee's investigation. Annoyed by the noise, Rebecca interfered and in the end asked Ashton to keep an open mind. Yes, an open mind is of utmost importance in times like these. Yeah, and on the same date this afternoon, Marianne is the one that shall be meeting her demise first. Tonight, hopefully, where this all started will provide the answers I'm looking for. Except the whole thing's off to a bad start, and all of a sudden, whatever Isabel claims dwelling in a mansion becomes the least of my concerns. Severely underdressed is a total understatement to describe how I look. Cars with more than my own apartment and childhood home combined. Lining the mansion's front yard, men and women decked out in their best also flock near the entrance. Most are eager for the festivals to start, while some are simply idling around, enjoying the warm afternoon sun before it sets. But once a woman standing at the front porch speaks, their undivided attention immediately shifts to her. Presumably Miss Wright. From the confident manner she holds herself amongst present company. This despite keeping a far simpler appearance than the rest of her own guests, or not having her husband beside her. A trait worthy of utmost admiration at best. At worst, she's the envy of every woman, the subject of every gossip in Luxbourne. Welcome everyone. And Mom said we could have been good friends. I can't even picture myself mingling with the kind of guests she has, though I admit, she does seem familiar now that I have seen her this close. Memories of sitting in a vanity not mine, being dressed in clothes far too fancy for my tastes. They fleet briefly in my mind until her cheerful tone rises above the buzz of her erupted audience again. Please make yourselves at home. I wish I could share her enthusiasm, really, but being surrounded by all this extravagance, for the lack of a better term, merely makes me dread how the rest of the night might go. Also knowing there might be some truth to what lies inside the place helps drive the unease further by a notch. Ashton, on the other hand, be careful with Shirley, alright? For some who are hers gatherings like this, he already seems right at home, standing with an air too lackadaisical as he watches the valet drive off with his bloody car. Can't you at least act with a bit more shame? Becky, if I find a single scratch on Shirley, they will be held to pay. Those guys know what they're doing. They're handling cars worth more than your precious Shirley. My disdain has likely shown beyond the tone of my voice, quite possibly in the form of a grimace. He chuckles a rare moment with mirth and amusement dance across his features. Try as I might to pull up a stern glare, I can't help but join him instead. There's something in the lightness of it, how easy this kind of interaction falls into place when we don't let feelings get too involved, in spite of being stuck in a situation we're not fond of. It brings back memories. However, the moment doesn't hold. All of a sudden, Ashton grows quiet. Chief? An odd expression flashes momentarily across his face, though he blinks it away before I can figure out what it is exactly. Ashton, what's... Sorry, Beck, I just saw someone I need to catch up with, a long-time friend. It doesn't help that he isn't even making an effort to spare a glance my way when he answers. Instead, they're focused at some point in the crowd. His glare darting between people walking past us until a small frown forms in his face. Wait, Ash, what about... This won't be long. Be careful when I'm gone, okay? I'll meet the smile he hastily throws my way with a frown of my own. What does he mean by that? But before I could ask already, he has turned his back from me and he is walking away. Without a single explanation whatsoever, in some desperate efforts, I try to catch up to him, if only to know what warranted this sudden departure and his odd warning at the end. Hey, be careful. About what exact? Only for my attempts to be interrupted by a muffled ringing from my pocket. Mum's cheerful voice greets me as soon as I answer. Yes, I'm at the party already, Mum. Yes, I'll say hi to her if I can. The conversation itself doesn't last long. Just a simple hello, a reminder to enjoy the party and to send regards to their old student. But when the call ends and I get look up, Ashton's already heading aside. With a sigh and, admittedly a little disappointment, I tuck my mobile back into my pocket and follow after him. So much for a date. Even with familiar company, this is somehow shaping up to a terrible evening. The party hits full swing an hour later, with the host's opening remarks given, still no sign of her husband. The poor woman, and the guests promptly fed. The band shifts the melody to a livelier tone. Soon, laughter and the rhythmic tapping of shoes fill the room, all in accordance to the lifting strains of music. It seems fun, I admit. Fascinating at certain moments. The flurry of dancers making the music of their own, almost with no care in the world. If I weren't so indisposed, I'd have joined the crowd for a song or two. There isn't a lack of invitations anyway, plenty of them in fact, with some asking more than once. It's only my stubborn refusal that prevents me from joining them, and I can. A single nod is all it'll take, and the evening would have been far enjoyable for me. But pride in my own silly hopes, the thought of being seen with one of them by him curbs that, as much as I hate to admit it. It's a hard truth to swallow, especially with the very person at the centre of it makes denial difficult. Can't even spare me a minute of his attention, or a single glance at me the whole evening. Hell, Zachary might have spoken more words to me. The big guy's busy covering the event to boot. But at least he manages to slip in a conversation or two before it takes, or a small wave of his hand when he passes by. What's Ashton's excuse? He's been flitting in and out the sight the whole time. One moment he's hanging around a small group, in another he's hovering around the stream band. Just a second ago he's wolfing down some deviled eggs by the buffet table, a glass of wine in hand. The next one I know he's gone. If I didn't know any better, I'd see only agree to come with me for another reason. I swear the next person asks I'm dancing the night away with, Ashton can go blank himself. You would catch his eye a lot better if you wore nicer clothes, don't you think? Her voice almost makes me jump, too focused on the gobshites wandering around the ballroom and my own annoyance to notice. If she's heard of any of the profanities I've mumbled, or she's taken notice of my discomfiture, she makes no comment on it, merely greets me with a smile when I turn my attention to her. Miss Hannah Wright gives off a whole different air when she's not speaking to an audience. Homely, a bit too friendly for my liking. But I guess that comes from being raised in such an environment and having to deal with pompous, snotty people. Though I suppose nothing has really changed from years ago. I remember her carrying herself in the same manner during that one and only visit. Does she remember any of it? I won't be surprised if she doesn't. It has taken me a while myself. She's probably met a lot of people like little Becky throughout the years. Might have already forgotten about me or my parents. People like her thrive on connections after all. Nevertheless, I return her smile, awkward and stiff as it may be. Didn't realise the housewarming was going to be like this. Fancy. I would have gone with a nicer dress if I knew. Oh, you're fine, dearie. It's only really the ponvery, those who climb, that come to these parties all dolled up. Quite the blacked hair beauty, isn't he? It takes me a while to realise who she's talking about, until Ashton walks by again, in closer proximity than any other times he has done so far this evening. Still without a look or of an acknowledgement our way, though, even if Mrs. Wright speaks loud enough to catch the attention of anyone within earshot. Who? Ash? You know, you really shouldn't have turned down those offers. If I wasn't married, I'd happily go dancing with those young men. But you said a name, Ash. That's the exquisite lad you've been looking at all this time. I don't know him, and I'm the one hosting this party. That must mean you know each other. Is he your boyfriend then? Because that would explain those rejections. This isn't the first time someone has made that assumption. Almost every student I've had in the past did. My co-workers more often than not. Assume he is. A few of my neighbours also think we're an item. Not that Ashton has ever reacted to those. He's been quite indifferent about it, in fact. Still, the heat of a blush creeps under my cheeks. I deny already, despite wanting it to happen so badly myself. What? No, that's ridiculous. He isn't my boyfriend. Such a violent reaction. A simple no would have sufficed. Many here would be happy to hear it. And I haven't been looking for him. I do my best to summon a straight face, but before her good cheer, it easily flatters. That's right. You've been staring quite heatedly, in fact. Although I'm not sure if you look like you want to kiss him or kill him. It's more of the latter, currently. Just don't go murdering him on my property. I don't want to walk into a room and suddenly find a body there. It's infectious in a way. No sooner I find myself enjoying our chat more than I've imagined myself to. Although her attention briefly wavers at one point, she remains a good companion. Even more once I've mentioned who my parents are, her face quickly lights up, and fondness graces her face despite the meaning of several years ago being a short one. But of course, there are some things really can't avoid talking about. After all, it's one of the few things I remember her asking me the moment she spotted little Becky in the room. Do you have a boyfriend? In retrospect, it's an odd thing to talk about as children, when there are lots we could have started with. Oh, yes, I remember you. You were the cutest little thing with glasses. And when we met, you were having boy troubles with this lad calling something with an A. I believe I still have the clothes she gave me, chosen. Also, I could impress him. And even back then, Ashton has always been denser than a rock, and that one attempt to get him to notice backfired spectacularly. Sure, he's keen, he's a detective, for heaven's sakes, but feelings, more often than not, escapes him. What is it again? Aaron, Alan, Adele, Albert, Alexander, Andrew, which makes his whole talk all the more embarrassing. And the more names she lists off, the more my discomfort grows, until my smile turns into a grimace. What will she think of me? Here she is, married to a man she most probably loves, at that, while I'm still stuck in the same place, yearning for the same person. Ashton? Ash? That man is that boy, the same one. Oh goodness me, after all these years. I can see why though, he's quite dashing. You don't really need to announce it to everyone within earshot, you know. Keep it down. I'm so sorry, but it really is cute. She says that, but for a short moment a hint of pity flickers in her eye. I take that as a chance to change the subject, before anything more can be said over the matter. I haven't even sorted these things out for myself. So this is a nice party, Mrs. Wright. Though to be frank, I doubt she'll be so willing to pass this up, but Ogret has already captured her attention. Please, Hannah is fine. We're friends of a sort, aren't we? We must be friends, seeing as I know about your little I don't know how to pronounce that. Becky. Don't you worry, dearie. You'll have your happy ending yet. I'm not too concerned about that, am I? That's not what I'm looking for. Oh, and what makes you think that? Doesn't everybody want their happy ending? The idea of happy endings sounds like they're just for fairy tales. And they are, sorta. I don't think you could just sit around trapped in some tower and hope for the best. If you love him, you have to fight for it, right? You're not just going to sit there and hope that everything will just fix itself on its own. Like everything, you have to work for it. That's what this is. How dare I preach about something when it's exactly what I've been doing. And then, I go and act as if I'm entitled to any of it. That, by virtue of us growing up together, he must return whenever I feel for him. That he's not allowed to look at another because I'm the one who has stayed by his side the longest, when in the first place, Ashton has always been his own person. This is something I cannot force on him. I can only hold on to those, take care of it, until the time comes I can confess it to him. Great, if he reciprocates, but if he can't, if he won't, selfish, I've been too selfish. But what do I do? I'm sure the daughter of the two greatest professors I've ever known is smart enough to know what she's talking about. At one point, maybe I would have easily agreed to that. However, the past weeks have also seen changes in the way I view things. And as nice as these things sounds, it turns out whatever I previously know may not even be true for other people, or for myself. It is sobering, almost funny, how things I might have said with much certainty before now has doubts muddling each of them. But there will be time to more about these later, because when a hush suddenly descends in the room, a whole different issue rears. Especially when Luke strides into the now quiet ballroom, fashionably late and oozing with the same pompous mien he always carries around with him. Good evening, ladies and gents. Enjoying the party. I hope I'm not too late in welcoming you all to the Wright Mansion. Before long, Hannah leaves my side to join him, and it doesn't take a genius to place it all together. Welcome one and all to our humble abode. Tonight, if you have yet to find yourself in your roles, you are all ladies and lords of the court of your king and queen. If you would excuse my presumption, I don't know how to read that word. So enjoy the fest that has been laid out for your senses, as we only allowed the best to be served. Enjoy the rest of your night, everyone. His attitude, the manner he carries himself around people, his unfamiliarity with that part of the city. Of course, I should have known, although I'm partly at fault here. Tabloids and the gossip columns have never been really my thing. I should have also expected that where Luke Wright is, some sort of drama will sure follow. He seems the kind of person who revels in it. It'll find him on its own, even when he's not asking for it. Yep, this again. It happens amidst a round of applause and hoots that people lagging behind the crowd they've gathered does not catch on, until the cheers turn into several scandalized gasps. Okay. Yeah, I think we've already covered over this. God damn it, Luke, I finally got you to talk to me after months of silence, and then you do this to me? What do you mean you're pregnant with? Luke, is this true? Lies and slander, woman. Security. Okay, so this is something that someone corrected me in the comments. I kept calling him Jonies or Johnnies. It's actually Johans. So thank you very much for that. So, security, Johans, take her out of here before she makes an even bigger fool out of herself. No, you do not do this to me. I was so ready to leave my okay. I told you to leave that damn wife of yours. Look at her. Does she look like she wants a baby? Does she look like she can take care of a baby? The commotion doesn't go further, despite the drunk woman appearing like she has plenty more venom to spill. In a little while, security shows up escorting her out. Apparently, she's a chief inspector's wife too, as if the whole thing can't get any more blanked up than it is already. What a mess, but the damage has been done, and beyond the repercussions this will bring, I'm more worried about Hannah. Maybe Luke too, in part. I've seen a man that hides behind his self-importance, and it is someone who cares for the person who stands beside him, no matter how questionable that is now. After all, no anger is worse than that of a scorned woman. He's lucky, though, that he is not to be the object of it anytime soon, that his wife loves him enough not to believe any of a woman's drunken prattles. Take that trollop out of here immediately, and see to it that she isn't allowed here or anyone we hold any authority in Luxbourne. Hannah's outrage is a strange sight to witness. After those smiles and the grace she has carried herself through the entirety of her party, like this, her eyes burning bright with fury. I don't doubt she can do so much more, ruin the scandalous woman if need be. Shaming her is already an act of mercy, generous enough coming from her. Everyone please go back to enjoying the party. Don't let that mess of a woman ruin your night. You heard her. Strike up the band and let us dance like fireflies in the night. Yet when she turns to Luke, eyes gleam with hope, somehow feels off. Something I can't quite place. Hers is not the face of a person who so ardently loves. There's a lack of tenderness in it, an absence of warmth and sincere affection. It's the kind that constricts, suffocates. Well, that was a mess, wasn't it? And you handled it magnificently. It happens. We are very important people, are we not? No one seems to have noticed it, however, and at their command, music resumes. There's a brief lull, a reluctant pause, before the place wants a stir again, but shortly the buzz returns to the room. Dancers have once again taken to the floors and their guests' excited chatter begins anew. Maybe it's just my imagination. Milady, would you like to dance? With pleasure, my prince. The unsettling feeling in my stomach, however, remains. Even as the strained atmosphere dissolves into merriment, even as I watch the couple lose themselves in the moment, or the people around them join them in it, it grasps me all the more when, once I leave the hall, the last glimpse I catch of Hannah is her smile, a thin, unearthly one spreading across her soft features. The porter closes the door behind me with a soft click, but all I hear from it are the chilling whispers, those that seem to echo along with another familiar grin in my mind. Help me. Again with that. The brush of fresh air against my cheeks does little to dampen the nervous edge in my bones. Away from the rush of the party, I just feel bone tired. It's late. I have accomplished nothing from what I've come here for, and Ashton's nowhere to be found. I'm not sure what pees me off more, that he ignored me the whole evening might have just left without saying anything, or knowing he obviously has some other motive for being here. Can't he at least trust his own friends for that? He didn't have to lie to me. He's not even answering his phone. That man has always been difficult to contact when he's out. But you'd think he'd at least have the decency and keep his lines open if he's going to wander off on a party. One that he happened to attend with his friends at that. I let the call ring of 9 more times before cutting it off. No use trying to find someone who refuses to be found. I can't get home on my own. I can get home on my own. I don't need him. He can just... Becca, where'd you go off to? If we're done here, let's go. My mistake. The second his voice cuts through the crisp night air is that I've allowed my annoyance to get the better of me. Fuming, patience forgotten, I whirl around and march towards him. One accusation after another piles up at the tip of my tongue, ready to be hurled at any moment. There's no hesitation holding me back when I fling it at him. That straight face he keeps as I do so doesn't help my temper, my anger, either. It only makes me want to slap some more sense into him. Shouldn't I be the one asking you that? Becca, I've been waiting here the whole time since that mess in the hall. I told you I hate parties like. And before that, where have you been the entire evening? Right then and there, I might have forgotten him if he'd shown some ounce of remorse for leaving me like that. Maybe he could have looked away, giving me the sign that my assumptions might be right. He doesn't even need to put them into words. A single gesture of confirmation is all I need. Rather, what I get is the same impassive look. He does that whenever he can't disclose anything. He does that whenever he's lying. In the face of it, amidst the thick tension, a frustrated huff is the only thing I could summon. Be that way. Fine. Suit yourself. No more words. After everything I've seen and heard tonight, I'm already too exhausted for those. So without speaking any further, I simply walk past him, stomp over his car. Although before I could pull open the door, he calls out, one hand outstretched, a gentle weight on my shoulders. Wait, Becca. He pauses, his brows frowning and lips curving into a slight frown. I could almost see the gears turning in his head, while he tries to piece together everything he wants to say. Before, perhaps, I might have waited patiently for those. He's not a man fond of using words to express himself. More often than not, any gesture of honesty will come out blunt and coerced when forced. But today, one reason or another, and simply can't summon that forbiddance. Ashen, if you're just going to waste my time again. Becca, listen, I don't know how else. That much is obvious. Why don't you just take the whole bloody night? Go on, I can wait until next year. Better yet, why don't you just keep it all to yourself like you do always do? It's not like... Rebecca, will you hear me out first? The silence I can offer him, but whether I believe what he says about to say is still up for debate, a very long debate. I honestly don't know how else to put this. I'm aware your parents have some kind of history with Hannah Wright, and somehow you're friends with her, but you should stay away from those people for now, especially the husband. Who? Luke? His expression deepens into a squall at my mention of the name, but whatever opinion he has, he doesn't immediately voice. Not without a word. Does it save? Good. Doesn't immediately voice. Still, something about her has greatly displeased him. Evident in the stiff note of his tone assumes. Yeah, he's bad news. Yeah, what do I have to do with this? What does he have to do with this? Yeah. Let's see now. Okay, neutral. What does he have to do with this? Drops. What does he have to do with this? It's not a question without merit, though the man can be quite abrasive, sometimes downright nasty with his words. You can't simply accuse anyone by virtue of that alone, and it is an accusation, no matter how much Ashton phrasing downplays their meaning. What right does he have to tell me who I should associate myself with, without even bothering to tell me his reasons at that? Plenty. Just trust me on this, Rebecca. Don't you Becca me. That doesn't answer my question at all, Ash. You haven't answered any of my questions, in fact. What's really going on here? I want to hear it from him. If we are to go down this route, I want to hear it straight from his mouth. Because whatever he thinks of a man, I haven't found any reason why I should be wary of him. Sure, we started off on the wrong foot, but he's a decent guy when he tries, and a simple explanation is all I want. Is that really so hard to understand for him? The situation is complicated. One mistake and you guys could... So we're back here again. More secrets. Why can't you be honest to me for once? He's a dangerous man to be around with, Rebecca. Really? Care to elaborate on that? Because what I've seen, the only dangerous thing about the guy is his audacity to cheat on his wife. Why are you defending him? Who said anything about defending anyone? You know, I'm getting really worried about you guys. First is Zach, and now you're... Oh, you're worried. Somehow even that concern feels empty to me, even if it's from him. You care. Really now, if you care, then Then where were you the entire party? That doesn't matter right now. You know I can't simply forget it, Ashton. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to talk about this night anymore. Speak to me when you're ready to stop spatting the same barefaced lies. Ashton jerks back as I've struck him. For a fleeting moment, something akin to hurt darts across his face. Features, his eyes, narrowing and hands closing in tightly into a fist at his sides. It does little to lower my ill humour, because the next second his answer sounds nothing of the apologetic tone I'm expecting from him. Fine. A little regret would have been nice. Fine. In my anger, I didn't even notice when I've climbed inside his car, not until after I slammed its door behind me, with as much force as I can summon. He follows soon after, and shortly we're on our way back to the city, yet even with the city's bright lights welcoming us, the dense, sombre air from the mansion still lingers. Let's see. Rebecca found Ashton waiting for her upon exiting the mansion. Frustrated because he was nowhere to be found during the entire party, she demanded to know what was going on. When he couldn't give her an answer, the two end up having a huge fight. It does sound like it, definitely. A huge emotional fight. The moon is almost at its highest by the time we reach Salemwell. Even after our respective heads have cooled off, the atmosphere within the car remains rife with unspoken tension. This isn't a problem so easily fixed with a few handshakes. Quite frankly, I don't know what will. Ashton himself has no idea what to do when he alights and dwindles awkwardly in the middle of the car park, unsure. It almost seems like he's having an internal debate whether he should say goodbye or mutter another apology. I could have driven him away, purely out of spite, the second I've gotten off. Still, old habits die hard. It's late, and Ashton's flat is on the other side of the city. Irritants might still rear its head every time I look at him right now, but I'm not too cruel to put him up on another long drive, especially when he still appears as if he hasn't gotten any rest. You can borrow the couch. I throw the keys to my flat his way before a protest forms on his lips. Although he catches it with ease, he eyes it with a weary expression and shoots a puzzled glance my way. You haven't been forgotten. We're still going to have that talk, believe me. But I'm not about to send you out on another drive looking like that. It's late. Go get some rest. We're setting aside a lot of loose ends like this, but he appears to have accepted that reason, at least in the meantime. He does give me another questioning glance when I shove past him, pulling my mobile in the process. Where are you going? I thought. You're going ahead upstairs. I need to contact Professor Andrew. Andrew, why would you... Oh no, please. Is this that thing Isabella said this morning again? I already gave her my word, Becca. I'll look into this BRC rubbish. No need to drag this old guy into it. The old guy into it. Of course he's still skeptical. It makes one wonder if he's even seen anything at all. Figures this curse will stay away from the scoffer. Don't know how to pronounce that. But this is another loose end tonight, and I can't just leave alone. Ashton's beliefs notwithstanding. It just so happens that it's one I could dive into using means other than taking a look at the mansion itself. Ashton, do you really think I still give a shite about that stunt you pulled tonight? No, but this is. I've spent so many years with him to know this is about to turn into another argument. Before he could finish it, I cut him off with a firm raise of my hand. Look, I don't care. There are weird things happening around here, and yes, it's Isabella's brand of weird. Ghostly voices, strange sounds, and a bloody woman sitting at the back of my car. You don't have to believe me, and I no longer have the patience to convince you, so just leave me be, Ashton. He doesn't push it, growing quiet instead, although I know he has a whole case of it prepared inside his head. But there's a reluctant shift in his movement when he steps away from our conversation. Short of climbing the stairs, he stops, turns to face me with an expression almost too conflicted. Are you really sure? What? That there was something. That you've been, seeing things. Yes, I'm very, very certain. Now go. And you better not break anything in there. The last time I let you stay over, it was that statuette Bella you gave me. You haven't even replaced that one. The last of my reprimand goes both unheard and unanswered as he disappears behind the stairs. If things aren't as strained, he might have a quote or two about that, followed by a light banter. Instead, for a long moment, I am left staring after him. There's something in the way he asked it that nags, coupled with his expression. The whole exchange just feels unsettling. One that doesn't fade even as I gather my thoughts and shift my focus on another, even as I dial Professor Andrew's number. And that is when it clicks. During the long wait for the professor, one stray thought emerges from my unease. Ashton has not intended for his question to be a jibe. It's concern. For what though? For my well-being? The latter's curse? For one I mentioned? The answers for those will have to wait, however. Finally the call connects and Professor Andrew's voice echoes from the receiver. Professor Andrew! Rebecca, it's late. What can I do for you? I know, I'm sorry, but this is a bit urgent. After all, this is a more pressing matter. Our lives might be at stake and we're still in the dark. Actually, I was wondering if I could ask you to do me a favour. October 30th, Sunday. Professor Andrew Clark has agreed to meet with me 2 days later in front of Luxbourne's public library. He has other commitments, but being a long-time family friend has its perks. I have my parents' connections to thank for that. Of course, I'm not the sort to impose on him often, but the situation is, well, it's not entirely bad, although it does require calling in a few favours from friends like him. Without his signature, I won't be able to gain access to the library's restricted section. If I want to get more in-depth information on the Ermengrade Mansion, that is, not simply what they choose to show to the general public. As much as I hate to admit it, there's always something people censor, and whatever it is, I won't ever find it in the general section. It has to be what they're keeping here, beyond the public eye. The thought of that alone makes me angsty. Thankfully, I don't have to brood over it. For waiting for a professor doesn't last long. He never did enjoy making people wait. Likewise, he dislikes people who are tardy. He arrives 5 minutes later after I do, greeting me with a kind of smile and casual wave of his hand. I haven't seen him in so long, but it appears he hasn't changed much. His familiar presence alone is enough for a fond smile to spread across my face. Professor Andrew. Rebecca. Didn't I say long ago you can drop the professor? You know I can't possibly do that. Even if I can, it feels disrespectful to call you by your name alone. Both you and Ashton never listen to this old man, kids these days. Alright, but just for today, since you're doing me a huge favour, Andrew, I guess you simply can't have it all even at his old age. But pleasantries aren't what we're here for, yes? You mentioned you needed a permit. Ah, yes sir, if that's okay with you. More than fine. Anything in pursuit of knowledge, as they say. He hands me the permit without further prompting. And just like that, and just like he promised, he also written a recommendation after his signature. This is more than enough to get me those files. I mutter a small thanks before slipping it into my pocket, although when I look back up, his brows are frowned, but very face of curiosity. Not surprising, considering how vague I've been doing our little talk over the phone. Right there and there, I've decided to tell him if he ever asks. Maybe if not at all, but stuff he needs to know. It's the least I can do to thank him. As expected, true to his inquisitive nature, he asked, If you don't mind though, I know you've always been an eager learner, but I may know what in the restricted section might pride your curiosity. It's the Ermengrade Mansion, sir. He's quick to raise an eyebrow at. For a while, I fear he'll take the slip of paper back. Is there something wise said? The ones they have out in the general isn't enough. I'm hoping for a more in-depth read, sir. More about the history and the people who once lived there. The general section doesn't have anything much on that. Ah, I see. Well, you certainly are the first one to be enamored with that place. It doesn't shock me. The architecture is admirable, and the urban legends are something to talk about. I think enamored might be a little too much to describe our interest in it. But I have to agree, the mansion is beautiful even with the renovations. They kept the stained glass windows too. They are magnificent. You've seen it. I was there for a few hours to attend a housewarming party. The invitation was for my parents, but we couldn't make it. My mum used to work as a private tutor for the Evans, Hannah Wright. Oh, I know of her. Her husband too. Who doesn't? Luxbourne's most popular couple. Something falls behind his eyes. The warmth in them suddenly gone, like he's reliving a painful distant memory and seeing it play right in front of him. It disappears almost as soon as it surfaces, but that look has unsettled something in me. Is something the matter? Nothing much, but you know, you're already like a daughter to me, so if you could, do be careful with the friends you make. Is that about the right, sir? Just a friendly advice from the old man. Don't think much about it. Anyway, I have to leave now. Can't miss my weekly serving of bear claws. Say hi to your parents and Detective Inspector for me, will you? I wish you luck with all that research. I will. Thanks for this, Andrew. Andrew gives my shoulder a light squeeze, the gesture a younger me has always appreciated, and quickly crosses the street after. I watch him until he disappears behind the door to a cafe, until the doubt swimming inside my head finds a moment to rest. Whatever his business is with the rights isn't anything I should concern myself about. But somehow in the grand scheme of things now, all of it feels oddly relevant. The how, though, I've yet to find out. And I'm hoping the library will give me the answers I want this time. On a gloomy Sunday morning, the library is especially empty. The second floor in particular. I've always considered this place to be a sanctuary, a respite away from the hubbub of the city. As a child, I grew up reading books here, spending hours here to no end poring over the pages, living out fantasies in my head until my parents called me home. Now it feels nothing like it. The silence is smothering, suffocating. Even with how clean they've kept the micro-fleet room, how the entire small of it lacks a speck of dust or clutter, breathing as a struggle for air. Not far into my stay, I begin to long for the noise outside, and perhaps as a way to calm this unease, I start to hum a tune. Imagine that. Why of all things it has to be that silly nursery rhyme? I'm not an inkling. It does its job, however. It fills the lull with something far less awkward, something less deafening, and there is enough for a distraction. I have business here, no time for silly daydreams, only important work to attend. Even if there's a possibility of it being fruitless by some means, it feels like I have to do it. If not for me, then for the people who have been affected by this. What do we even call this? A haunting, a Halloween prank gone wrong, a curse. If Isabella were here, what would she say? Would she panic? Will she be angry I only listened to her now? It all stems from that one moment in the movie house, doesn't it? We could have avoided this had we only taken her warnings to heart. One stupid mistake is all it took to send our normal ways on a downward spiral. Frankly, I'm no longer sure if I'm angry at myself for it, or at the universe for throwing us into this mess. But we can only make do of what little we have, and that's exactly what I'm doing. Going here might not be the right decision, but it's a start. A good start. It doesn't take much time for me to find what I need. Old newspapers, long kept in special storage cabinets at the far end of the restricted section. The year is 1620s and beyond, before the city of Luxbourne even exists in the records, when the mansion has just been built. An asylum is nothing more but a small, sleepy hamlet near the river. A lot of pieces are missing. Days, sometimes several consecutive I don't know how to pronounce that, weeks without any records remaining. Often it goes on for years. Troublesome. But as it is, I'm lucky enough to find anything at all considering how far I'm looking back. Can't be picky now. Can't waste time muffling over what record keepers of the old could have done to make this a breeze for me. I can still work with this. The faint whir of the microflitch machine keeps me company as I go over each slide, each image, hoping for something that goes beyond what the local lore knows. There are snippets, little mentions of a family that once settled in the house here and there. The usual singing of praises for the couple who helped brought up what was once a tiny settlement into a buzzing town. Nothing substantial, nothing I didn't know before. It continues on like this for a good while, until I come by the years after their deaths. The people of Aslium might have loved Lord William and Lady Isabel. Sorry, I'm not talking about Isabel here. We're talking about Elizabeth Ermengrade. Mourned their passing and held them in high esteem in the years after. But it was their daughter that was remembered fondly by the townspeople. If her parents built this town, Lady Charlotte was one who made it prosper. Remarkable, considering it was a period of recovery from a bout of plague that killed half the townspeople, including her parents. Okay, buried history. Well, surprising though. Apparently, her time also marked more than superficial changes to the place. She moved things, changed laws, altered old customs and traditions. If they were done on a woman's whimsy, it doesn't say, but she seems capable enough for more than that. The gist of it is, the town she rebuilt is what eventually grew to become Luxbourne City, while the nearby Aslium village remained as it was, a relic of the old. A frown swiftly forms in my face. So why is there a need to hide this? One by one I try to record every lesson I've got through, every book, paper and journal I've read. None of those ever mention this. It's always the lord and the lady of the house, their endearing child, always an afterthought to those, whatever that is, the one who always took her life in the end. Never someone who restored a town from the brink of collapse or brought new ideas to it. Is it because... okay, that annoys me so much. Granted, not everything is sunshine and rainbows, not all aspects of her can be considered admirable, but this is history. Some parts are bound to naturally deviate into unpleasant territory whether I like it or not. Witch hunts, for example, became common near the end of her life, which would have been completely unremarkable and might have gone to become a mere footnote in history if it didn't involve Lady Charlotte, the very slave she saved. It caused quite a stir, enough to leave almost a week's worth of clippings. The girl was eventually burned, condemned by an entire town, at the word of Lady Charlotte alone. But this doesn't really have anything to do with this curse, does it? Unless that woman following us and this slave are the same person. A tale of revenge, how cliché. However, with a lack of accurate photographs, it's impossible to tell. Maybe if I squint, the illustration would start resembling her. But in my field, it doesn't work that way. It shouldn't work that way. I will be the laughingstock of the community. This isn't going anywhere. Mentally exhausted as I take a careful step away from the screen, pressing a palm to my tired eyes. The lack of ample light in this area doesn't help. A headache already threatens to form at the back of my head, yet I'm nowhere near figuring things out. There's simply too much to take in all at once. I should have asked for someone's help. Now I'm at dead end. I start gathering everything around me and placing them back in their respective envelopes for storage. The motion's no longer new after volunteering here a number of times. I didn't make much mess. Anyway, considering the lack of materials available to begin with, I'll have to look somewhere else. For where remains unknown though. But just as I'm about to slip the last of the slides, something catches my attention. My hand pauses. The microfleet halfway through its protective sleeve. This is one of the few I've set aside without taking a careful look at it. It seems like a gossip column at first glance, but upon closer look, I slide it back to the reader, gently turning the details in search of a page. It takes some time, but once the image becomes clear, Ermengrade hair announces... Again, I don't know how to pronounce that word. They must have had this drawing commissioned for this announcement. I don't doubt it. The details are far more intricate, their likeness likely closer to how they might have appeared at the time. They're both recognizable this way, closer to those paintings I've seen in the mansion. However, it's the man standing beside her, Ermengarde Godfrey, according to the article that caught my attention previously. Her first cousin, and eventually her fiancé. Maybe it's the posture, the manner in which he holds himself. Or maybe it's the shape of his eyes. Though I can't be too certain about that until I've gotten a better reference. Godfrey, right. He does look a bit similar to Luke though, doesn't he? Nevertheless, there is a resemblance. He looks eerily like... My head snaps up, glowering at whoever's running in the floor above. Any day I'd march upstairs and I'd repent him, whoever it is. This is a library, for heaven's sakes. But now isn't the time. I've gotten what I need. Without wasting another minute, I hit the machine's print button for a copy of the page, while my other hand moves to put everything back into storage. A ridged inhale slips from me. Relief, perhaps, or maybe this is already exhaustion. Regardless, soon. I'm closing my eyes as I wait for the printer to finish, if only to stave off the headache building up from everything. The hum again. With the help of Professor Andrew Clark, Rebecca was able to gain access to Luxbourne's library restricted section. In there, she discovered numerous accounts about the Ermengrades, all hidden from the public. Her research was interrupted, however, when what? Somehow, I've even began humming the same song again for comfort. Despite my doubts about this, despite all my tension in my shoulders, this may be a small find, but at least I can start somewhere. We can start somewhere. There's a way out of this. I know it. The printer spats to a halt. However, its sound isn't what makes me snap my eyes open. A feeling, a chilly brush of air behind my back, brief enough for someone sickening to suddenly lodge itself in my throat while I take in my surroundings. It's that suffocating sensation again, creeping to every part of me, crawling under my skin, draining me little by little of any strength. From that day in the mansion, from that brief moment at school, without delay I grab the papers and make a quick beeline for the door. And that is where she is. My whole body freezes. What are you doing, Miss Pink? I hold my breath, not daring to make any noise. For a little while, only the sound of papers crumbling under my grasp fills the room. The excitement from earlier gone instantly, replaced by the cold, seeping dread spreading through my limbs. But more than the fear is the anger. It pains me to hear her using my own student's voice against me, and more than once I believed it was really her. She has no right. Why don't you play with me? Although she hasn't made the move, if there isn't a wall behind me, I'll probably take a few steps back. Anything to put distance between us, no matter how small, as long as I'm out of her reach. But I steel myself, because if I do fall back, turn away from her, I'll be left with no way out. I am not dying here. You think you scare me? Miss Pink, don't be so rude, I'm waiting. I'm not afraid of you, you spook. This is one Scotswoman you aren't getting away into an earlier grave without fight. Come at me. I expected she'd lunge, prove to me what a monster she is. Instead, all she gives me a smile, twisted and gaunt. It's as if time has crawled to a stop at the sight of it. A split-second decision, and before I know, my body shifts, eyes closed in anticipation, hand grabbing whatever solid enough on the table nearby and hurling it at her. Okay, so she is something that's real then. I don't bother looking if whatever I threw hit its mark. I run, as fast as my legs carry me. Despite my heart threatening to burst out of my chest, but in a maze of bookshelves, with the whole place almost void of people. Okay, what's going to become of this? Hang on. Okay, so... no, damn it. So we started off this episode from... I believe it was this mark. No, not that. 312. Yeah, we've still got some time. Heading for the door sounds like the worst idea, probably. If there's one, it is out of this room, out of this place, as far away as anyone can get from her. I can think about how the rest of what I could do after I'm outside, when there are other people I can ask for help, when she's not chasing after me like this. There's no hesitation in my steps as I race to restricted section's door, head downstairs and barrel straight for the library's exit, towards safety, in a desperate bid for my life. Library rules be damned. I can no longer hear her behind me, but I'm not taking any chances. I would just look forward if I were you. A breath almost escapes me as I near the door. A little more, when out of nowhere, a library cart carries from a blind corner and slams to my sides. My back hits the floor with a hard thud, the impact completely knocking the breath out of me. The copper vein of blood gradually spreads over my tongue as I fight to get my bearings back. I force myself to move, even with the excruciating pain coursing through my limbs. The exit is almost there, if only I can, but there's no moment's respite. Great. The next thing I know, there's heavy weight atop me and cold digits slide around my neck, tight like a vice, pressing, closing in, leaving me gasping for air. Through my blurred vision I can only make out the hateful gleam, the spite in her eyes, and she looms over my body in her... oh gosh. Desperation kicks in. My nails dig into her wrists as I struggle against her firm grip, trying to pry her fingers away. Let go! Let me go. Wait, how do I do that? How do I... oh! Mouse is... oh, damn it. I should have done it with my mouse. I didn't read the instructions there. But at least we actually get to see her, because it was a quick time event. My lungs begin to ache. Okay. Somebody help me. Darkness starts to fill the edges of my vision, and soon the world fades. Yep, certainly is game over at that. Good. I don't think twice. My limbs are moving on their own before what I did could fully register in my brain, and my lungs could recover. Behind me she lets out a cry, sharp, loud, and thunderous against the empty walls of the library, but the fear her wells brings compares nothing to the relief washing over me when I finally make it out. Yes, quick escape. My knees buckle as soon as my feet hit the pavement, its surface cold and hard against my skin. I've only been there for a few hours, about 1 or 2 probably. I don't know anymore. It feels like all eternity all the same. My breathing hasn't slowed down yet, and I don't expect it to after going through that. I probably look the most undignified creature on a Sunday morning right now, out of breath, dishevelled, slumped here with a blooded lip and all. But at prison, I simply can't bring myself to care, even when a few passersby start giving me a strange look. Stare at me all you want, I don't give a single... okay, she's a feisty lady, Rebecca is. This isn't the end yet, but I'm safe. And inside my bag is something that could get us out of this mess. Nothing definite yet. I don't want to get my hopes up, but it's still something. If Isabella is here, I'm sure she'll feel the same. She'll even be the first one who'll put her faith on it. Wherever this will lead us to is a victory on its own. Now, all that's left to do is find the others, the rest of us trapped in this bloody nightmare. Right on cue, as if an answer to my previous four, my mobile phone lets out a beep. I'll pick it up, simply hoping it will be one of them. Only it's a voicemail that greets me. From Ashton. There's a pain of disappointment, of course, but it brings some reassurance that nothing's happened to at least one of them. Hey Becca, call me back when you're free. We need to talk ASAP. He ends it right there. The message, less than a minute. He ends it right there. The message, less than a minute long, caught and gives nothing away. I'll let it ease my worries regardless and do as he asks, because this too is another triumph for us. One less thing to worry about. Good. Good. Rebecca was seen limping out of the Luxbourne Public Library late Sunday morning. Checking her mobile, a lone voicemail from Ashton was in it, telling her they need to talk ASAP. Yeah, because on the previous day, something interrupted her. Now we are on the perspective of Ashton. Hold on, let's look at our branching tree. So we did a lot more in this episode than we done in the previous one. Well, there was one huge line that we cut across there, and that was... Better, you shouldn't be doing these things. Story update. These story updates will probably occur if we'd taken another route. Other things to do. Okay, so that is the route we could have done if we were with Kylie and Luke. This one. And then probably that would have been different. Or maybe the fate was sealed here because of all the other choices we selected in the previous chapters. We don't know. But I think more choices are cut out at this point simply because of the amount of chapters we've been through at this point. Okay. Okay, this all leads to... Okay. Quick time event, common route, story update, ending 1. And now it's that coincidence. Okay, so we're going to... General... Oh, profiles, I see. Well, I'll leave you all for that to read at the moment. So thank you very much for watching, guys. And we're going to be with Ashton on the next time of the letter. But before that, I'm just going to see how big his... Oh my god. Looking at that red line, how small it is, I can tell that this chapter's going to be... This chapter's massive. Agonizingly massive. Oh my goodness sakes, how massive this chapter is. God, no wonder people were saying that this chapter was long. I'm not surprised. But at the same time surprised because I knew it was massive because of how small that red line is. That cursor. And I bet Luke's chapter is just as big as this one. But regardless, thank you very much for watching, folks, and take care of yourselves.